This is the Fly the W670 podcast. It is season 3. It's episode 40. Braves beat down on the Cubs. Don't forget to listen, download, review. Most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Follow on all the socials. Fly the W670, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and of course, email Crawly and I, flythew670@gmail.com. Well, Crawly, this one hasn't gone exactly the way we had hoped, but kind of how we thought it would go.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a different class right here when you're looking at the Braves. The Braves are a team that are ready to win the World Series right now. You know, if you look at the odds, right, of who can win the World Series, you know, you'd put the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Braves. Those are all teams from the National League that you would put in the top tier as far as winning the pennant, you know? And
Well,
so
yeah, I mean, they were a preseason favorite, but they are here. I guess the problem is that they did not start as well as some might hope. Now, I didn't look deep enough into their schedule, how many times they played the Phillies, who have obviously gotten off to a red hot start, but it's like all of a sudden they're kind of coming into form against the Cubs.
And that's going to happen with every team. You know, you're just going to have your times where maybe you get off to a slow start, maybe you get on a hot streak, maybe you get on a cold streak. But I guess if you asked me where you think Atlanta's going to be finishing at the end of the season, I still think they're going to beat the Phillies to be in first place. But, you know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, listen, worst case scenario, right? They're definitely a team that's going to, you would think, get one of those wild card spots as they keep expanding that thing. They are definitely built for the postseason. There's no doubt about that.
Right. And we were excited about game one because it looked like it'd be a good pitcher's duel, right? Shota Imanaga versus Reynaldo Lopez. And this was a good test for Shota, right? A strong Braves lineup, and Shota went 5 scoreless innings. But Dustin, this was a much more stressful game, I think, than he was used to. A lot of traffic on the base. A
lot of traffic on the base pass. Yep.
Atlanta made him work. He walked the first batter he faced, Ronald Acuna. He got Ozzie Albies to pop out, and then he picked off Acuna, who was picked off twice the night before on Sunday Night Baseball. You have to wonder what was going on in his head, right?
Well, it's like he doesn't want to get dirty. I mean, seriously, that's what it seemed like. Oh, I mean, this uniform looks fly. I don't want to get dirty here. That's how I felt.
Now, he walked the next batter, Marcell Ozuna, and gave up a single to Matt Olson before getting out of the inning. But that's 3 base runners right there in the first. That's the first time that Shota's had to deal with the bases loaded jam while he was with the Cubs, which is pretty amazing considering he's made 7 starts. He had a 1-2-3 inning in the second, but gave up 2 singles in the third. In the fourth inning, that's when things went nutty. Shota gave up a single, right? He gets a strikeout, gives up another single to put runners at the corner with 1 out. He gets Travis d'Arnaud to strike out, no problem. Now he has 2 on, 2 outs, and the 9th hitter up, Zach Short, comes up to bat. You might have said, where have I heard that name before? 2016 draft pick by the Cubs. He started the Compound Podcast with Ian Happ in 2020. He was traded by the Cubs to the Tigers for Cameron Maybin in 2020, if you remember that name. He bounced from the Tigers to the Mets and then to the Red Sox. He was DFA'd last week, and he's traded by Boston to Atlanta for cash. So this was Zach's second game with the Braves. 2 on, 2 outs, and last year's MVP, Ronald Acuna, on deck. Shota walks Zach Short, who's slashing .063, 250, .063 to load the bases for Acuna. You cannot, I don't care if you're Shota Imanaga, I don't care if you're Justin Verlander, you can't walk Zach Short to load the bases for Ronald Acuna.
Can't play around like that. No way.
You know, and so Shota gets Acuna to a 2-1 count. He throws a fastball, and Acuna tries to check his swing. Looks like he went to me, Dustin. I thought that the Boog and, Jim DeShays thought he went. They appealed to first base. Umpire Junior Valentine. Valentine rules he didn't swing. Craig Counsell says something to Valentine from the top step. And Valentine, who's all the way at the first base side, Counsell's at the third base side. There's no way he's hearing anything Counsell's saying. He throws him out. Did you think that was a quick ejection there?
Yeah, but now supposedly Counsell said in the postgame there was something about he had been warned about making hand gestures, Crawly. I don't know exactly which hand gestures he was making, but that's what he said. He said that he had been warned about making a hand gesture, and then he decided to make another hand gesture, and that was it. He was gone. When he actually came out of the dugout, he had actually already been thrown out of the game at that point.
I don't know. I look at this guy right here, and he's one of those guys that looks like a 1980s villain that was wearing like a sweater, like around all prep style and something. I don't know. He's got like a punchable face. You know what I mean?
Yeah, punchable face sounds about right, Crawly. Punchable face. I like that. That's a instead of the bitter beer face, this guy's got a punchable face. All right.
Right.
I can roll with that. Yeah, I can roll with that.
And we don't advocate violence towards umpires. That's only done in the South Side. But
no. We're not condoning that. Not at all.
No, just a guy who just looks obnoxious. And so Imanaga does get Acuna to pop out to the inning, but Dustin showed his pitch count was now over 80 after the fourth inning. He pitched the fifth, gave up a single to Ozzy Albies. He picked him off, 2 pickoffs for Imanaga. And so we hadn't seen that just probably because we hadn't seen a lot of base runners against Imanaga. But after the fifth, his inning was done. He gave up 7 hits, no runs, 3 walks with 8 Ks. But the 10 base runners were the most that he'd given up since coming to the Cubs. He had his first mound visit ever by Tommy Hotovy, and the first time he loaded the bases. So Dustin, even on a night when he didn't have his best stuff, he was able to hold an impressive Atlanta offense scoreless. So you'll take
exactly. Yes, exactly. I mean, when you hold that Braves offense to what it was, plus he got into the 90 pitch range again. So now that's back-to-back games with 90 pitches. We were talking about, speculating how he was going to look coming out of that last start when he went a little bit longer than we all thought he should have, but came out pretty good.
Yeah, and speaking of scoreless, the Cubs couldn't do anything against Reynaldo Lopez and the Braves' pen. Seiya singled in the first, Michael Busch singled in the second. Cubs drew 2 walks off Lopez in the fifth. Lopez only went 5 innings, giving up no runs, only 2 hits. He gave up 2 walks and 4 Ks. Dustin, poor Seiya Suzuki's hitting the crap out of the ball, but just not getting any luck. He had a single in his first at-bat with an exit velo of 98. In his next at-bat in the fourth, he hit one 102 miles per hour off the bat. It would have been a home run in 11 out of 30 MLB parks. Not Truist Field, as Ronald Acuna caught it against the wall. And in the sixth, he hit one 100.1 mile per hour off the bat, 379 feet away. That was just allowed out to left center. So, just some bad luck, and the guys are just not hitting. So, with both starters out of the game, it was a battle of the bullpen. So you know how that's going to go. Hayden Wesneski came into the game in the sixth. He struck out the first 2 batters he faced. Then he gave up a double to Travis d'Arnaud. And so once again, Zach Short, the number 9 hitter, hitting .063, comes to the plate. And Wesneski falls behind 3-1 to Zach Short. Zach takes strike 2, and on a 3-2 pitch, he hits a double down the line, and the Braves take a 1-0 lead. Now you got Acuna. He singles to make it 2-0. Look, Zach Short is not a great hitter. But when you fall behind 3-1, the hitter has the advantage, and I think Hayden should have been more aggressive. Yeah,
I can't disagree with that. I mean, and Hayden didn't look terrible when he came in there, but just not good enough. But listen again, Crawly, when the offense doesn't score, it's kind of hard to win a game.
Exactly. We always say it's hard to win with 1 run. Well, you cannot physically win a game with 0 runs. And the good
never happened, right? It never happened. That's never happened, right? Okay.
Just double checking
yeah.
Checking my numbers. But
Ed Hardig, we can go to the Cubs story, and that's never happened. Okay.
Hayden Wesneski did save the pen at least, right? So he was able to go and save the pen, which was good. And again, like you said, the Cubs didn't do anything, but you thought to yourself, okay, 9th inning, AJ Minter comes out of the pen. He blew a save opportunity the night before. He gave up a 2-run homer to Brendan Nimmo of the Mets on Sunday Night Baseball. And so you're saying to yourself, okay, let's see, maybe the Cubs can get to this guy. And it starts out good. Cody Bellinger led off the inning with a soft infield single that he hustled to beat out. Then Christopher Morel, Dustin, had an amazing 12-pitch at bat, drew a walk, but he had to come out of the game because he fouled one of those pitches off his foot and was struggling to put weight on it. I mean, Dustin, that guy's had hand issues, a knee issue, and now the toe issue. It's like, I feel, but he's still a gamer. He didn't want to come out.
No, he is a gamer. That's a good word for it. He is tough as nails.
PCA comes in to pinch run. So you got Cody at second, PCA at first. You got speed on the bases. You got no outs. You're down 2-0, tying run at first in PCA. And Christopher Morel just has this amazing 12-pitch at bat. And then Ian Happ swings at the first pitch he sees. It goes about 2. I mean, it's hit hard, but it hit the ground 2 feet in front of him. And easy 6-4 double 3. Nico flied out to end the game. And what looked like was going to be a promising inning in the 9th was over in a snap of a finger, Dustin. I mean, man, that evaporated quickly.
Yeah, that was that.
I don't get what Ian was doing on that one right there. I mean, it was a long at bat. Maybe he thought he was just going to get one, but I just noticed with Ian, it just doesn't seem like he's elevating the ball. Everything he's doing is into the ground. And that's what you're going to get. You're going to get a lot of double plays or balls that are hit to the infielders.
Yeah. He's been super frustrating, no doubt.
And so, we get to game 2 and you're thinking, okay, Jameson Taillon, Chris Sale. Now, Chris Sale was dominant in his previous start in Boston, striking out 10 in 6 scoreless innings. And Dustin, he was just as dominant again against the Cubs. Not only that, the Cubs got more bad news before the game as Nico Hoerner was taken out of the lineup with hamstring tightness. So Nico was going to play short and he was going to lead off. Now Miles Mastrobuoni is going to take his place, and Patrick Wisdom, of all people, is now batting leadoff. So also of note, Ian Happ was given the night off. Dustin, you talked about the frustrations he's been going through. Well, Sale cut through this Cubs lineup like he was cutting up White Sox throwback jerseys.
Well done.
Thank you. He pitched 7 innings of shutout ball. He gave up 2 singles, 1 in the first inning and 1 in the 7th. He struck out 9 batters. The Cubs got 1 more hit in the 8th off reliever Aaron Bummer, who was another South Sider. Bloop double by Patrick Wisdom. It wasn't hit hard. It just in between the left fielder, the shortstop, and the third baseman. That was the Cubs' first extra base hit in 17 innings in Atlanta. So the offense had 3 hits and no walks against Sale and the Braves bullpen. Again, you don't score, you're not going to win. I was interested to see how Taillon would look coming off the he wasn't, he was on the IL with that back strain till April 18th. He started 4 games. He didn't give up more than 2 runs in any of them, but that start was scratched against Pittsburgh when that back flared up again. So we didn't know what to expect. Wasn't the greatest. With 1 out in the first, he gave up back-to-back singles, gave up a double to Matt Olson to make 1-0. But with runners at second and third and only 1 out, he's able to get out of it with more damage. So I'm thinking, all right, here we go. He wouldn't be lucky in the 4th, though. The first batter he faced, Michael Harris homer to make it 2-0. Then Orlando Arcia reached on an error by Taillon and then gave up a single. He walked the 9th hitter, Zach Short, who is having the series of his life here, apparently, to load the bases. He threw a wild pitch to make it 3-0, walked another batter, gave a sac fly, and then Matt Olson does what he does best, crush a 3-run homer. And just like that, the Cubs were down 7-0. Taillon would come out in the 5th. His line was 4 innings pitch, gave us 7 runs on 7 hits, 3 walks and 2 Ks with 2 homers, but only 2 of those runs were earned because of the error that he made. So his ERA still looks good. Jose Cuas and the newly acquired Tyson Miller each pitch 2 scoreless innings. So, Dustin, down so far 2-0, and they haven't scored a single run yet. And we have game 3 tonight. I'm going to be covering that live after we're done here. So hopefully people can tune in and hopefully we can get a Cubs victory. As you just saw, the Cubs are going to beat the Braves 7-1. And oh boy, doesn't that make us all feel a little bit better? We can get off the ledge a little bit because I know, trust me, I read all the comments. I read all the things that people put out there. And, I know there's a lot of panic. And after after the first 2 games, I understood it, but that's baseball, man. Highs and lows. You're playing a great, great team in the Atlanta Braves at their house, right? I mean, you're going to expect that in that situation, they're going to win 2 of 3, which is exactly what happened. Now, did the Cubs look bad in the process? Yes. You sit there, you take a look at the game, and you ask yourself, all right, the lineup, again, no Nico Hoerner, 2nd game in a row. And you're wondering how the heck this team is going to score runs. Now, granted, Reynaldo Lopez has been pitching great. Chris Sale has been otherworldly, especially his last 4 starts. Chris Kampka had a great tweet about that the other day. Nobody's hitting him. And so you got Charlie Morton coming out. The team isn't hitting anything. 18 innings of being shut out on the very first pitch. Very first pitch, Mike Tauchman hits a home run. And it was one of those things where you're just like, okay, is this going to be the game where the bats bust out? And sure enough, right after that, Seiya Suzuki hits a double, Cody Bellinger singles, and then Christopher Morel grounds out. And that was a great play by Orlando Arcia that he made, and he was able to get the force out. And so no big deal. Cubs are up 2-0, but the bases get loaded. What about Miles Mastrobuoni? I mean, what a game he had, but the bases are loaded and Pete Crow Armstrong gets hit by a pitch. That is called taking one for the team, and you're up 3-0. Now, with this Atlanta offense, I wasn't comfortable with the 3-0 lead. We've seen how some of these things have gone. And I'm like, please just score some more runs. But when you saw Assad come out there and just get that 1, 2, 3 inning, and I know he hasn't been playing great, but to see Ronald Acuna not in the lineup, I got to just breathe a little bit. All right, I know he's, MVP last year. You know what he does on the base pass. Just didn't want to see him against the Cubs. And the other thing with Javier Assad is when he gets into that second inning, he gives out a 1-out double of Travis d'Arnaud, and he works his way around that. I love the fact that in the third inning, Miles Mastrobuoni, again, you're talking about a guy that I think people like to use as a punching bag. He walks for the second time in the game with 1 out. Magical singles. You got runners at first and third, and Charlie Morton throws it away on a pickoff attempt. So now the Cubs are up 4-0, and that's going to be it for Charlie Morton after 3 innings. So, after everything that Chris Sale and Ronaldo Lopez did, Charlie Morton goes 3 innings, gives up 3 runs on 5 hits, 3 walks, and 4 Ks. Definitely not the start that they were looking for. Shortest start by a Brave starter this year. So, hey, man, all good. Everything's all good there. And so just enjoyable to see how they worked. And the other thing I really like, too, is that the Cubs just kept going. They didn't let up off the gas. And the 2 guys that, to me, really kind of made this game was PCA and Miles Mastrobuoni. Both of them just had really, really good games. And not only did you have great starting pitching, not only did you have timely hitting, but I thought the defense was really good. There was just a lot of plays that you saw the defense make, whether it was PCA, whether it was Miles Mastrobuoni. Michael Busch had a nice pick on a ball that looked like it was going to be going out there. One of my favorite plays is in the 5th inning. Michael Busch singles, Miles Mastrobuoni flies out, and then Nick Madrigal singles. And so I don't know what Madrigal was kind of thinking there. He was out at second. It wasn't even close. But, now Busch is at third, but you got 2 outs. Pete Crow Armstrong hits a bunt that gets past everybody, perfectly executed. The run scores 5-0, and then he steals second base. If you remember at Cubs convention, I asked, it was my question, asking about the bunt and Craig Counsell's feeling about bunting. And Craig Counsell said, I'm not a big bunter, but a guy like PCA, a lefty who has some speed, yeah, I could see that happening. And he's making that part of the game. And that was just great. Bottom of the 5th, that play by Miles Mastrobuoni to Michael Busch. It looked like a Dansby Swanson kind of sliding backhand play. The throw wasn't on line, but Michael Busch, who's had his fair share of trouble picking the ball, was able to get that throw that was a little bit offline and make the tag. So I thought that was awesome. Ben Brown came in, and the only thing I would say that I was a little bit curious about is that, Javier Assad just absolutely shut down the Braves. I mean, it was just a fantastic performance against a great lineup. 6 innings. He gives up 0 runs, 4 hits, 7 Ks, and 1 walk. His ERA now is a minuscule 1.49, 4th best in Major League Baseball. Don't you love it how MLB comes out with those lists and, the top 10 pitchers? You would think that the guy with the 4th lowest ERA might somehow be on there, but no. But I was surprised that Ben Brown, who came in, he only pitched 2 innings. And to me, that was a little bit surprising. I thought that they would let Ben Brown go the distance on that one. But, Ben gave up a run, and that's, again, in that type of game, when you have that kind of lead, I would have preferred to shut them out after everything they did to the Cubs the last couple nights. Orlando Arcia hit a 1-out double. He got Jared Kelenic to strike out swinging a nice fastball. But then Zach Short, boy, did he really want to give it to his old teammates this series. He had an unbelievable series. He doubles, and that puts Atlanta on the board. 5-1 is still not a comfortable lead in my book. Not against this Braves team. And not with this Cubs bullpen, to be honest with you, at this point in time. Top of the 8th. Once again, PCA in the middle of it. He triples, sharp line drive to left, and then Yan Gomes right away, sac fly. He finds the pitch that he likes, and first pitch, boom, PCA is in. So if you think about it, the Cubs win 7-1. PCA gets hit by a pitch, that's 1 run. On the bunt, he drives in another, that's 2 runs. And you have the triple with the sac fly, so he scores another run. That's 3 of the 7 runs that PCA was involved in the play. Now, that made it 6-1, and then Seiya Suzuki was really doing well when he got injured, when he got that oblique injury, and he has been struggling. He's been on the struggle bus. And I'm just sitting there going like, man, we need Seiya to get going. He was, coming into the game, he was 3 for his last 18, slashing 167, 211, slugging 167. And, if you're listening to the Fly the W podcast at the beginning of the season, to me, PCA was my pick as the guy that was going to be the MVP. I really thought that this was going to be a breakout year. Plenty of time for that to happen, but to get that home run, I think it was just kind of similar to everything with the Cubs, where everyone just played really flawless baseball. But Luke Little did come in the ninth, and he walked the first batter. He faced Adam Duvall, and he hit the second one. So he got 2 guys on. He strikes out Jared Kelnick. But then a double, I thought it was going to be a double play. It wasn't. 1 out, but then Michael Harris flies out to win the game. Luke knows that he has to get guys out, especially in that situation with a lead like that. Just throw strikes. Don't worry about, being fancy or anything like that. Throw strikes and see what happens in this one. So, for the Cubs, just a great game altogether. To see Seiya Suzuki 2 for 5 with the home run. Mike Tauchman 2 for 5 with a home run. Cody Bellinger 2 for 4. Christopher Morel struggled 0 for 5. The Cubs come and take on Pittsburgh. I wonder if he gets a day off with all the bumps and bruises that he's had lately. Michael Busch 1 for 4 with a walk. Miles Mastroboni 1 for 3, 2 walks, some nice defensive plays. Nick Madrigal, guys that, I'm going to be guilty of sometimes razzing a little bit, the Miles Mastroboni and the Nick Madrigals of the world. Nick Madrigal 3 for 4. And then Pete Crow Armstrong, like we said, 2 for 4 and hit by a pitch, 2 RBIs. Just a great offensive performance by a Cubs team that absolutely needed it.
You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. It is episode 40 of season 3. The Braves got the beatdown going against the Cubs. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Leave us one of those 5-star reviews. Don't forget, you can email Crawly and I, flythew670@gmail.com, and you can watch us. That's right. You can watch us on 670 The Score's YouTube page. In this segment, Matthew Trueblood, writer for the Northside Baseball, talks to Crawly about new trade acquisition Tyson Miller and some of the adjustments the Cubs' young hitters are trying to make.
Joining me now on the Fly the W podcast, happy to have our old friend Matthew Trueblood back. Matthew, how you doing today?
Doing great, Crawly. How are you?
Oh man, people are a little bit getting a little bit nervous. The Cubs are on a little bit of a slide here, but those things are going to happen over 162 games.
Yeah, I mean every year, and certainly if you're dealing with this many injuries this early, I also think it's a quirky schedule. Since they've gone to the more balanced schedule, there are a lot of sort of variables that I don't think people anticipated. Like they've played 36 out of 38 days now at a stretch, or they will by the end of this current stretch. And you usually don't do that so early in the season. So having such a dense schedule without off days and some tough opponents and being depleted by injury, I think everyone should feel pretty good about where the Cubs are.
Right. And honestly, even when it wasn't an unbalanced schedule, what I always tell people is just get out of May in striking distance of first place. You do that, summer at Wrigley, the ball's flying out, the vibes are going. I mean, you're in a good place. I'm old enough to remember a lot of seasons that were done by the end of April. You're just like, well, we'll try again next year. But hey, man, we're right in this. No big deal, right?
Right. And honestly, to again, like you said, taking sort of a historical perspective, people think of Memorial Day. Well, you got to be in position by Memorial Day. That's the spot where you evaluate yourself. That's only true because until the mid 80s, the trade deadline was June 15th. You better know whether you're buying or selling by Memorial Day, right? Now that it's July 31st, and especially now that we, I think, just understand the game on a much deeper level than we did back then, give it time. We saw last year's team. They were just about in sell mode at the All-Star break, and they salvaged it before the deadline and ended up buying. There's plenty of time for them to get things together. And I don't think, as frustrating as these last couple of losses in Atlanta have been, they're somewhat to be expected. And they're not going to be, if the Cubs do miss the playoffs, it's not going to be because of a little bit of a rocky stretch that they're going through right now.
Now, you talked a little bit about the injuries, and to help deal with some of the injuries, especially in the bullpen where they have been plentiful, the Cubs decided to bring back an old friend. They acquired right-handed reliever Tyson Miller, who former Cubs draft pick 2016, from the Mariners, and you wrote an interesting article over at your site on Northside Baseball about the type of pitcher Tyson Miller is and the interest that Cubs have in them. Why don't you tell our readers a little bit about why Jed is so intrigued with a guy like Tyson Miller?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, there are some similarities that you kind of can't look past here to what Jose Cuas does. He comes from a really extreme horizontal angle and vertical angle. You know, he throws from what I'd call sort of a high sidearm. He's not one of those guys who goes down and scrapes the dirt, but he's getting down with a real low slot and coming from a wide angle. Players don't see that very much. The Cubs love guys who give hitters unusual looks. And I think when you compare that with the fact that Miller has this very interesting, completely unique slider that just goes left. There's no dip to it relative to his fastball. It is square to what his fastball is doing. You can see there how it compares to most of the rest of the league. It's an outlier. When they see something like that, they're going to jump on it. And especially when you add to that, shopping this early in the season, I think it adds a layer of comfort that they're familiar with the person. And this front office doesn't want to acquire people that they don't know a bit about and feel good about bringing into the clubhouse unless it's a desperate situation. They're not quite there yet. And so they saw an opportunity to scoop up this guy with some interesting traits that fit things they love to do with relief pitchers. And it happens to be a guy they know and they're confident in terms of how he's going to fit there. It all lines up.
Now, you mentioned Jose Cuas. Would you say that Tyson Miller has a little, because, when you have that weird kind of angle that I've seen with Jose Cuas, sometimes he just kind of loses as far as his mechanics and starts to get a little bit wild. And how much of that would you say is based on the way that he throws versus just a young pitcher?
There's definitely some of it. Just imagine yourself trying to throw a balled up piece of paper into a trash can. Do you have a better chance if you're straight on or if you're sort of throwing around a corner into the next guy's cubicle, right? Cuas has that problem. I think to Miller's credit, he's got pretty darn good command for a guy who relatively recently made this change in arm angle, who sort of came up with a more traditional delivery. He commands the ball pretty well, and it's really only 2 pitches. I think he's got a little more clarity about what he wants to do at this point, especially this spring. He's sort of figured that out. Than Cuas has. And so there might be a little more conviction to the way he throws too. But yeah, there's going to be some inevitable issues with that. And that's where you've got to have confidence, either that this guy does have that step better command than Cuas, or that we're good enough at coaching and sort of maybe also picking the spots where you use a guy that it's not going to hurt you the way at times it has really hurt the Cubs when they've had to rely on Cuas.
Now, one thing that the Cubs also are kind of struggling with, obviously, with all the injuries, is as far as the hitting right now. They're just not really hitting the ball well. And somebody that the Cubs really were relying on early, what do you have, like 5 straight games with a home run, is Michael Busch. Was that right? 5 straight games?
Yep.
And obviously lately, you wrote an interesting article about the hole in his swing. And, Matt, I get it all the time. I'm sure you do too. DFA this guy, trade this guy. He's no good. Not understanding how difficult it is, obviously, to pitch in the major leagues or to hit in the major leagues. And the fact is that when they find something, you're going to be in some trouble.
They're ruthless and they're really, really good. That's the 2 most important facts about pitchers and the teams who coach and help them prepare in the modern era. And yeah, you've heard guys say when you come up right away, teams are going to approach you with hard in, soft away. They're going to try and bust you inside on the hands with the fastball. They're going to try and throw you either change ups or breaking balls, depending on the handedness of the pitcher, that fades off the plate. That doesn't really work against Busch, which is why you saw him have so much success right away early in the season. A few weeks in, teams found where there was a hole in his swing, which was up and away fastballs. High and away is not a spot that traditionally you expect a lefty to be weak up there, especially on hard stuff. But once teams realized that it was there, they drilled on it. I mean, they attacked it, and they're still doing so and having some success with it. But I think, like you said, people get frustrated very quickly when especially young hitters who haven't totally proven themselves have these struggles. It's part of adjustment and counter adjustment. And Busch had to learn how he could time it up and cover that hole and get to that ball, if only occasionally, to scare people off of using it. So when he goes up in a spot like, I believe it was last Tuesday night against the Padres, and first pitch, up and away fastball, they're going right to his weak spot, only he's covered it and he blasted out of the park for a walk-off shot. It's like when Bill Russell threw an elbow one time on national TV back in the 60s. Doesn't have to do it a lot. That doesn't have to be Michael Busch's specialty. You scare people out of throwing where you know you're weakest, and you're going to get more of the pitches that you're more comfortable handling. So the adjustment curve then goes back to pitchers to find the next hole. I know we haven't seen Busch totally break out since that hit yet, but I think we're going to see a more sustained period of success as now he gets back ahead of the adjustment curve. He's a really gifted hitter. Just takes time.
And that's the thing is I just feel like people don't want to give these kids any time. And so it's like, one, you need to have regular playing time. If you're just going to sit on the bench like Alexander Canario, I mean, you're not going to come in, have one at bat, and all of a sudden, look like, a world beater. And again, you have to have time to work through some of these issues. And I keep thinking about, Ryan Sandberg, who I idolized growing up, going like 1 for 35. And I couldn't imagine if Twitter was around back then. Yeah, DFA him, get rid of him. He's terrible. He's a bum. And it's like, no, this is going to take time. He's got to figure it out. Like you said, it's that chess match of, finding the weakness and then having to make the adjustments. And then they're going to try to find something else. I mean, there's literally guys paid just to find that weakness. Where is it? Looking at the numbers. And that's what people have to understand.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Sandberg's a great example. Back then, teams made decisions too fast, more often than not quickly enough. Now I think people get impatient faster because we have access to more information about players. But in reality, teams are making sound choices. They're expecting guys to have these struggles. And then the question is, how long can you as the team withstand putting that guy in there to take his lumps? The Cubs ran into this issue, once they really rapidly went from bad to good in 2014 to 2015, right? That created some problems with some of those guys who became part of the core. They had a harder time developing just because there were stretches where an Addison Russell and Javi Baez had to bat way at the bottom of the order, which comes with its own disadvantages for long stretches of the season, because that's the only place they belong. That was the only way to get them in there. Or a guy like Kyle Schwarber, Ian Happ, they couldn't play every day. So the team had to make choices because they were a contending team that wanted to win right now. They can't just wait for a guy to figure things out, but you also have to give them room to figure things out. It's a tough balancing act. It's something you ask a lot of, and you put a lot of that on your manager. And I think the Cubs definitely feel more confident about Craig Counsell doing that balancing act with some of the guys they have in house right now than they did with David Ross a year or two ago.
Absolutely. And now in your latest article coming out, it talks about another young hitter. But not only does Miguel Amaya have to learn how to adapt to major league hitting, he has to do that all while studying major league hitters himself and helping, working on his game calling, all that stuff. What does Miguel Amaya have to do to rediscover his plate discipline?
Yeah. And Amaya even faces so many challenges that Busch didn't, because Busch was playing regularly. He was blocked. He was stuck in the minors the last couple of years, but playing just about every day. Well, in Amaya's case, injuries derailed his development. And then coming up to a big league team where then David Ross didn't make any room for him in the lineup sort of stunted his development a bit last year. What I found when I dug in on Amaya, and StatCast just came out with bat tracking data this a couple of days ago, that it turns out shows some really promising things about Miguel Amaya. He's got a relatively fast swing that gets pretty directly to the ball. There's a high correlation between the harder guys swing, generally the longer their swing, and maybe the more exploitable because there's more of an arc to it in various ways. Well, Amaya is pretty direct to the baseball with a swing with still really good bat speed. The problem is the advantage that should give you is I got more time to pick up the ball. I got more time to make a good swing decision. Don't chase, don't expand. And in fact, know even within the strike zone where you're looking to attack on a given pitch and where you might lay off and take a called strike. That programming is just on the fritz in Amaya's brain right now, as he is trying, as you said, to balance the big defensive responsibilities of being a starting catcher with learning to hit big league pitching when he barely got any chance to learn to hit AA or AAA pitching. So his swing rate has gone through the roof this year. He's expanding the zone too much. It's eaten his numbers alive, even as we've seen some flashes of what's a pretty promising offensive profile, especially for a catcher. Again, it's about patience, but in this case, it's also about Amaya has to recognize that he's opened himself up to some of his struggles, and there's some big adjustments that he needs to make proactively.
And again, these are things that you have to do on the fly. So I think Jed's brought it up about threading that needle of player development while at the same time trying to compete. Is that, they believe Miguel Amaya is the catcher of the future. They think they have something special. I mean, people. I remember when Bush hit those 5 home runs, and everyone's like, "Oh, we got him for nothing from the Dodgers." Careful, we didn't just get him for a bag of balls. Gave up some promising young players to get him. They believe in this guy. He just needs a lot of these guys, whether it's Bush, whether it's PCA, Amaya, all of these guys that we're talking about. And again, with the injuries, I think that kind of just, they're relied on more than if everybody was healthy, right? So if you have a healthy Cody Bellinger, healthy Seiya Suzuki, healthy Nico Hoerner, healthy Ian Happ, and everybody's playing to their level, then you don't need as much from Amaya. You don't need as much from Bush. They don't have to be, the guys that are carrying this team. But now when you have all these guys out, it's like, look, you have so many weaknesses now in the lineup that a pitcher can exploit. They can go 3-4 batters without really having to put in much effort.
Yeah. And now comes the big moment, and you need a big hit. And it is from one of these guys that you were hoping to be able to bat in the bottom third of the order and let them develop over time. It changes the calculation for sure. Health matters there. And so does, Jed Hoyer talks about threading that needle. He's also pretty comfortable threading that needle, or at least his choices about team building say that he is. I think Bush is a good example. The Cubs could get him from the Dodgers because the Dodgers went out and got not just Freddie Freeman, not just Mookie Betts, not just the extremely splashy names, Shohei Ohtani, but also Teoscar Hernandez. They also locked up and retained a Max Muncy. They made the choice of, we're not going to wait around for everybody who has a lot of learning to do that learning on our dime, on our clock, as we're trying to string together a dynasty here. Well, the Cubs, because they aren't yet to the point the Dodgers are at in terms of a lot of sustainable success that's sort of self-perpetuating, they want to develop players and they want to give themselves more of that challenge, I think. But it does come with some frustrations and some drawbacks where a couple of guys get hurt, and instead of leaning on a well-paid veteran who might slot into the 5th spot in the order, now it does have to be Bush every day, even against some lefties. Or now Amaya does have to slide up to 5th or 6th in the order, when again, you'd still love to have him batting 9th because that's really where his bat dictates. Those are choices that they've made about how to build this team and to look toward the future while still trying to win in the present.
Well, Matthew, you do such a good job explaining it over at your website, northsidebaseball.com. Tell our listeners where they can find your work and where they can find you on the socials.
Everything I do, pretty much, anyway, I'll post at MA Trueblood on Twitter. But yeah, especially if you're listening to this podcast, drop by northsidebaseball.com. It's not just me. We've got a growing staff of writers doing some really interesting and fun things, and also a growing community. We took over an existing website, same name, that had a great community of people just posting, talking about both baseball and non-baseball things on a daily basis. And we're excited about continuing to build it out from what it was. So stop by there and check us out.
Thank you so much, Matthew, and we'll talk to you in the future.
Thanks.
This is the Fly the W670 podcast, season 3, episode 40. Braves beat down the Cubs. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Feel free to leave us one of those 5-star reviews. You can email us at flythew670@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can watch us on the 670 The Score YouTube page. All right, Crawly, heading into the series, and now we're turning the attention to the Pirates. I know they've been losing. How do the Cubs look in the standings?
Well, before tonight's game against Atlanta, Milwaukee's already won, so the Cubs are 2 games back. So after tonight, they're either going to be a game and a half or 2.5 behind Milwaukee.
Oof.
Pittsburgh is 7.5 games back. Cincinnati 7.5 back, and St. Louis 7.5 games back. So they're all in the basement, other than the Cubs and Milwaukee. Just like I said, this stretch, I knew when it was this when Paul Skeens got called up and it was the Pittsburgh, Atlanta. I said to myself, this is a rough stretch. Just keep it close to Milwaukee.
Yeah, just stay as close as you possibly can. That's all you can do, especially with this injury bug. And we've got more injury news to discuss.
On Monday, we found out that Adbert Alzolay was going to the IL. People were kind of just talking a lot of smack and give him a fake injury, but he had imaging done and he was diagnosed with a right flexor strain. So luckily there's no structural damage. He's not going to touch a baseball for 5 days. So the hope is that, he can come back. And I don't know if the injury was caused by him trying to make adjustments, trying to figure things out, because he has been struggling. But I think either way, this is just a little bit of a break and just kind of relax mentally and hopefully come back both physically and mentally. Because guess what? If the Cubs are going to do anything to get to postseason baseball, Adbert Alzolay needs to be a part of it.
He probably does need to be a part of it. There's no doubt about that. And they acquired a guy. We talked about that in the last segment, Tyson Miller.
Yeah, they traded Tyson Miller. They traded Jake Slaughter, infielder Jake Slaughter, to Tyson Miller from the Mariners. He was a 4th-round pick for the Cubs in 2016. Went through the Cubs minor league system, played 2 games in that weird 2020 season. He was DFA'd. He was claimed by Texas. Then in 2023, he played for Milwaukee, the Mets, and the Dodgers. So Craig Counsell is familiar with him. The Cubs had to send Jake Slaughter to Seattle. He was an 18th-round pick by the Cubs in 2018. He was batting .297 with 5 homers, 17 RBIs, and 32 games at AAA. But his path to the majors with the Cubs is pretty blocked, so the trade makes sense.
Yep, makes all the sense in the world.
You talked about Nico Hoerner being a scratch the other night on Tuesday with left hamstring tightness. Counsell told the beat writers that Hoerner felt discomfort during batting practice. They opted not to take any chances. And Dustin, right before the game on Wednesday, we found out Keegan Thompson is on the IL with a viral infection and Luke Little is back. So the Cubs now have a lefty back in the pen because Richard Lovelady, a.k.a. Dick Lovelady, was DFA'd to make room for Tyson Miller.
Yeah, he gone. So,
I mean, Dustin, there's usually a timing that when the Cubs are going to release the lineup. So you kind of watch. But they have to make their moves before they release their lineups, if they're going to put someone on the IL or if they're going to DFA somebody or what. And every day it feels like that. Every single day there's something. And that's where I'm kind of just going nuts. It's like I'm scared to look at my phone because who is it going to be next?
Right. Every time you get a little ding, you're like, uh-oh, is this the Cubs or is this the wife? Which one is it?
Right. And most of the time it's the Cubs. So we'll see what happens. As you say, the Cubs are turning their attention to the Pirates next. They played each other last week.
Right.
Cubs took 2 or 3 from the Buccos, but it was that wacky series that the Cubs took 2 or 3 games from, but that could have gone all different directions.
Right.
Friday was the only normal game that saw Javier Assad and Ben Brown combined to pitch 8 innings. Brown got his first major league win, and Bellinger was 4 for 5 with a home run. The second game was a Paul Skeens debut. Justin Steele gave up 3 home runs. The Pirates issued 6 bases loaded walks after Skeens left the game, but the Cubs couldn't hold on to a lead and lost 10-9. But the Cubs took the rubber game when they scored 3 runs in the 10th and held on to win 5-4. The Pirates just finished a series with the Brewers. They helped the Cubs out a little bit, taking game 1 8-6, but then the Pirates dropped the next 2 4-3, and they lost the finale big time today. So the Pirates, luckily, at least they took some lumps before coming to Wrigley.
Yep, they got pounded on, but the pitching matchups are going to be pretty interesting as we preview this thing.
Yeah, and when we look at the tail of the tape, when we look at the team rankings,
tail of the tape, I like it.
Right now, hitting wise, the Cubs have the advantage. They're 19th, but they're hitting only .234 right now. But Pittsburgh's offense is just awful. They're 27 out of 30 teams. They're hitting .223 right now. Starting pitching ERA, that goes to the Cubs. They're third with a .317 ERA, so third in the league. Really good. And the Pirates are not bad either at 11th with a .363 ERA. Now, the relieving ERA, the Cubs are 24th out of 30 teams with a .450 ERA, while the Pirates have the advantage here. They're 22nd with a .442 ERA, but 2 really not very good bullpens. Fielding, the Cubs are 22nd in the league with -7 defensive runs saved, while the Pirates are 18th. So the Pirates have the advantage in fielding and relievers. The Cubs have the better hitting and starting pitcher ERA. Speaking of starting pitching, when we talk about these pitching probables, game 1, I'm going to be at this game, Dustin, for my daughter's birthday.
Very nice.
Left-handed pitcher Justin Steele versus Jared Jones. So a great pitching matchup. Steele started 3 games for the Cubs this season. Didn't have a win or a loss yet, a 4.37 ERA. In his first start back from injury, he pitched well against the Padres, going 4.2 innings, gave up no runs, 3 hits, 1 walk, and 2 Ks. But in his second start last weekend against the Pirates, he struggled, going 4 innings, giving up 6 runs on 6 hits with 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. He gave up 3 home runs. All 3 home runs were 0-2. And I was laughing when I was listening to the Mully and Haw show. You guys had Tommy Hodavi on, and he was talking. All of those pitches, all of those home runs came on 0-2 pitches. I mean, what are the odds of that happening? Steele needs to watch out for Connor Joe, who's 6 for 10 against him and hit a home run on Saturday. And O'Neal Cruz is 2-5. He also went back-to-back with Connor Joe on Saturday. But Steele has good numbers against Andrew McCutchen, who's only 2 for 17, Brian Reynolds 3 for 15, and Rowdy Tellez 1 for 9. Now, Jared Jones is a 22-year-old right-handed flamethrower. He's 2-4 with a 2.68 ERA. The only reason he's 2-4 is because of the bad Pittsburgh offense. He struck out 56 batters in 47 innings pitched. The Cubs saw him for the first time on Friday as Jones went 6 innings, gave up 3 runs, but only 2 of them were earned on 7 hits, 2 walks, and 4 Ks. Since that was the first time the Cubs faced Jones, the hitters mostly only have 3 at-bats against him. But Cody Bellinger was 2 for 3 with a double and a homer. Jones features a 4-seamer that averages 97 and a wicked slider. Dustin, what a weird juxtaposition for game 2. Kyle Hendricks versus Paul Skeens.
Yeah, right.
You can't get any more opposite here. You got a veteran soft tosser versus the rookie flamethrower. Rough start for Hendricks, who started 6 games so far. He's 0-3 with a 10.04 ERA, struck out 21 hitters in 26 innings. Dustin, he's given up a home run in every game he has started this season. After another rough start against the Marlins on April 21st, he went to the IL with a lower back strain, worked on some things in the minors. He came off the IL against the Pirates on Sunday, went 5 innings pitched, gave up 1 run on 2 hits with 5 Ks, but he walked 4 batters, which is uncharacteristics. Hendricks has to look out for Connor Joe, who is 6 for 12 against Kyle, but the Pirates, who have really struggled as a team against Kyle. Andrew McCutchen's 10 for 43, Brian Reynolds 6 for 33. Yes, Monty Grandal 3 for 22. In case you were wondering, Dustin, O'Neal Cruz has only 2 at-bats against Kyle. He's 1 for 2 with a home run. So I'm going to say Cruz's name a lot.
Yeah.
Paul Skeens, Dustin, we got to see that, and that was really something. Number 1 pitching prospect in all of baseball, made his debut last Saturday against the Cubs. Pitched 4 innings, gave up 3 runs on 6 hits, 2 walks, 7 Ks. But all 3 runs were charged to Skeens when he came out in the top of the 5th. Gave up a leadoff double to Mike Tauchman, a single to Seiya. And both runners came around to score when the Pittsburgh bullpen had a complete meltdown. They walked in 6 runs. So the only run you could really charge to him was the Nico Hoerner home run. And how about, of all people, Miles Mastrobuoni was 2 for 2 against Skeens, who throws a 4-seamer that averages 99 miles per hour, a slider, and a split finger. But Miles Mastrobuoni, 2 for 2 against Skeens. That's baseball, isn't it?
That's baseball.
Game 3, Shota Imanaga versus Bailey Falter. Shota will start his 3rd game of the series. The lefty is 4-0 with a 1.11 ERA, 42 strikeouts in 40.2 innings. In his last start, we talked about Seiya having to deal with the traffic of the Braves offense. This is not going to be the Braves offense. But again, he's had some high pitch counts the last couple times, but the Pirates have not seen Seiya yet, so advantage Cubs on that.
Advantage Cubs, yeah.
Bailey Falter's a 27-year-old lefty who is 2-2 with a 4.15 ERA. The Cubs faced him last Sunday, and he was able to go 6 innings pitched, gave up 2 runs on 5 hits, 2 walks with 1 strikeout. Christopher Morel hit a 2-run home run off him in the first, but he didn't give up any other runs as the Cubs won that one 5-4 in extras. But that was when I thought the Cubs were really going to take advantage of, and they didn't. Nico went 3 for 7 against him. Christopher Morel 4 for 6, and Patrick Wisdom was 4 for 7 against Falter. But Ian Happ is 1 for 10. Seiya is 0 for 7. Falter throws a 4-seam fastball mixed in with a curve, slider, and a sinker. And then, Dustin, this is a game that's going to be interesting. Game 4, my favorite 4-game series. Jameson Taillon, right-handed pitcher, versus Mitch Keller. Taillon's 3-1 with a 1.61 ERA, but that bad back has really affected his availability. He was supposed to pitch against the Pirates, but his start got pushed back. I bet he would have rather faced the Pirates than the Braves, who tagged him for 7 runs in 4 innings, hitting 2 home runs in 1 inning. The Pirates as a team, though, only hit 184 against Taillon. Jack Sawinski coming to Wrigley, local boy made good, who always hits well at Wrigley Field, is 4-5 against JMO, so just watch out for that one. Michael Taylor, though, is 1 for 15. Yasmani Grandal, 1 for 12. And Rowdy Tellez is 1 for 9. Mitch Keller, we missed him last time. He is 4 for 3 on the season with a 3.93 ERA, 51 strikeouts in 55 innings. Keller had a rough month of April, going 2-3 with a 4.98 ERA. He's looked good, though, in his 2 starts in May. On May 6th, he pitched a complete game against the Angels. He gave up 5 hits and 1 run. And in his last start against Milwaukee, he went 6 scoreless innings. He did give up 8 hits, but struck out 7. The Cubs do hit Keller well, though. They slash as a team, 304, 375, 557. Ian Happ is 9 for 22. Say is 4 for 7. And Cody Bellinger is 3 for 8. Mike Tauchman may need the night off. He's 1 for 9 against Keller, and Jan Gomes is 0 for 8. Mitch features a 4-seam fastball, a sinker, and a cutter.
Should be a really interesting series. There's no doubt about that. And the Cubs really need to get the bats going, right, to really have a successful couple of days against the Pirates. Good to get back home, I think, for this group as well, Crawly.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know Cody Bellinger's been warming up. He's getting hot. He's 7 for his last 22 with a home run and 3 RBIs. Christopher Morel, 5 for 18 with a homer and 3 RBIs as well. Those 2 guys have really been doing a lot of the work because the rest of the offense in the last 7 days is hitting below 235. So that's not going to be good.
I'm surprised it's that high.
Right. Ian Happ, he's 3 for his last 17, batting 176. And Seiya Suzuki's really struggling, 3 for his last 18. He's batting 167. So the team in general is batting bad. There's nothing you can do about that. Dustin, do you want to take a prediction on who's hot for Pittsburgh?
O'Neal Cruz.
O'Neal Cruz, 8 for his last 20 with 2 home runs, 3 RBIs. He's slashing 400, 455, 900. Be careful for Connor Joe as well. Who also was really good against the Cubs, 4 for his last 12 with 3 home runs and 6 RBIs. So those are 2 guys you really want to be careful. You don't have to really worry about the middle infield you don't want to have to really worry about Jack Sawinski, but he's 2 for his last 15. But again, we said he hits well in Wrigley.
Right. It's been really good at Wrigley, yeah. I mean, the way I remember it, I don't have the stats in front of me, but he seemed like he's been really good there.
Jared Triolo, he is 2 for his last 17. So they got some guys struggling as well, but they have a couple guys that are hot. Their catcher, Joey Bart, Connor Joe, O'Neal Cruz. Brian Reynolds is starting to pick it up, and that's one guy you do not want to get hot.
No, you do not.
So prediction time, Dustin. What are you thinking? 4 games.
2-2 at this point, right? Not knowing who's going to be healthy enough to hit. 2-2.
2-2. I'm going to try to be positive here.
All right.
I'm going to go with the Cubs taking 3 of 4. With Paul Skeens, I don't know what kind of pitch count he's on. He looked really good, but he wasn't able to go that deep into the games. The Pirates bullpen's not that much better than the Cubs. So I like Shota, and I like but it's Kyle Hendricks against Skeens. Ugh.
Right. That's what I mean. That's what I was kind of thinking.
I'm going for it. I'm going 3-1. Kyle Hendricks is I don't know if he's going to win the game, but he's not going to lose the game. That's my prediction. That's
a wrap. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Follow on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, of course. And you can email Crawly and I, flythew670gmail.com. And you can watch us by subscribing to the 670 The Score YouTube channel. Crawly, enjoy the game and enjoy your daughter's birthday. And we will be back to wrap it all up at the end of the 4-game set against the battling Buccos.
I got a feeling that the Cubs are about to go, they're going to heat it up. They just need a little bit of home cooking. I'm going to be out there cheering them on. Go Cubs. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Go Cubs!